Hola, flamingos. This is Andrew Mark Rowe, and you are currently breathing in holy flamingo poop. Today on the show, we have D.M. Gay, author of several hilarious horror comedy books, including The Graveyard Shift and more in the 24/7 Demon Mart series, and a few spin offs, per my understanding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a few.
Um, th- Thanks for coming on, Denise, and I'm super pumped to finally meet you and have this chat.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I hope I don't disappoint you.
Yeah. I'm sure that's not going to happen. Um,
I feel
just
like I'm like Quasimodo, like I'm in this dark basement where my office is, and I'm like just
well,
like tried really hard to like turn on every light. So you have to pardon me, my dark basement of doom where all the magic happens. So
I'm looking. I see the what's the cockroach's name from your book? I see
Kevin.
Kevin. That's right. He's up there. Is that him up
Yeah,
there
that's a
on
big
the one
plush
that's
Kevin. He's like,
yeah.
yeah. But I have like, a life-size Kevin that I take around for photo ops and stuff. So
Oh
he
God, he's
actually
one of
got
my
his picture
favorite
with Butch
characters.
Patrick. Yeah, that was a story. But anyway.
Really? Well, that must have been, yeah, it must have been a fun time.
Oh my God. Yeah. So Butch Patrick apparently lives in the Midwest and he owns the Monster Mobile
Okay.
and these like big like Route 66 car shows. And you can go to his booth and buy like a Munsters t-shirt and like, get a little autograph, whatever, which I have one up on there. I'm pointing that at it, my Butch
Oh
Patrick.
yeah, yeah, cool.
And
I
then he'll
see
take
it.
a picture. So I was like, take a picture with this cockroach, Kevin. And he was just like, what? I'm like, but he did it. So this is the thing that happened. Yeah,
Oh,
good
it's
times.
awesome. Yeah. And so you're in Ohio, right?
Yep.
Is that where you grew up? Is that
Beautiful,
like?
scenic Ohio, where we have basements.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up in Ohio, in a tiny, tiny town called Sugar Grove that nobody has heard of. So 2,000 people maybe in Sugar
Okay.
Grove, if we're counting a 50-mile radius around it. Yeah, not many people. So,
Is that where you are now?
no.
Okay. And I got out of there.
No, I left. I went to Chicago to go to college and then lived in Portland for a while where I worked graveyard shift at a convenience store, which then turned into my inspiration for the graveyard shift. And then I lived in New Orleans for many, many years. And then I moved back to Ohio after Hurricane Katrina because I just was like, I cannot disaster again. So then I moved back here. So it's delightfully boring. No disasters. I mean, in theory, we can get like an earthquake because there's like a fault line somewhere in Illinois, but you know,
That's one of my favorite parts of living in Newfoundland is that, we don't, well, we get like, there's hurricanes that kind of like
I was
cause
gonna
a
say, I'm like, y'all get
bit.
hurricanes. You're gonna get more. It's getting
But
warmer out there.
yeah, but I mean, like they haven't been terrible. Like it hasn't been like nearly the devastation you see in other places, but it's definitely it's pretty quiet up here and pretty isolated. I always figure if we're
Plus all
during
that
the zombie
sweet, sweet
apocalypse,
healthcare.
yeah,
Sweet,
yeah,
sweet healthcare. Oh my God, what's that like? Mm.
yeah. Well, it's funny, just not like that's a consideration that we don't normally have to consider. I mean, like there's certain things that happen, like our rich premier flew down for heart surgery down in Florida, which was a bit scandalous when he did that because everyone's like, "What's wrong with our system?" But
He's like, I had to wait 6 months. That's what.
yeah, well, that's the thing, right? It's free healthcare, but it's also, everybody's getting it, so it gets a bit backed up and that kind of thing. But
Just take it, enjoy it, revel in the awesomeness.
anyways.
So,
And so how did you get your start writing? Like, was it something that you did started later in life, or were you always doing it?
do you want the whole story?
Yeah,
um,
sure, why not?
well, I'll just back up to my adult life. I have a journalism degree.
Hmm.
So I worked in journalism before I wrote fiction. So I've had a storied and interesting career working for magazines as a magazine editor and then working for a daily newspaper, one of
Okay.
the top 15 biggest cities of the US, where I was a business and finance reporter. And then also
Okay.
for a while I was the garden columnist, so I read about, plants and plant diseases and all that kind of stuff. And then I was also a finance and law journalist for some wire services. So it all sounds very
Okay.
fancy, but it's really not fancy. So,
Yeah, I
but
get.
yeah, long career in journalism. And then,
Okay.
yeah, I liked it. Um, and I was good at it, but it never was like, I don't know, it never was a good fit for my personality because it's very hard to like take me seriously, like putting me in a suit and send me to like federal court. I mean, I can fake it, like, oh, I'm gonna like interview this fancy lawyer and then I gotta talk to this federal judge. But then it's like I'm still me and I'm like, oh my God, it's like just a lot of energy to just fake like you're like a serious person all the time.
I can relate.
So
I can relate.
so yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you know about me, but after that, um, like a few years ago, like I had a big health setback where like out of nowhere, I was just diagnosed with like kidney cancer,
Hmm.
even though I have no risk factors and usually it's like old guys. So
Okay.
surprise,
Mm.
spiritually on the inside, I'm like an 85-year-old man. So, yeah, so I wasn't able to work because I was super super sick. I mean, they didn't think that I was going to make it in the first 6 months, which I almost didn't. So, but then by some miracle, I'm still here and I'm okay. But during that period of time, I had to give up all of my journalism work because I was just trying to survive. And then after I was out of the woods, it was dicey. It was like we didn't know if it was going to come back or if it was going to, if I was going to be sick like that again. So I just had to make the decision. It's like, okay, whatever time I have left, which probably isn't much, I was like, we should at least do the thing that I want to do. So I was lucky enough that I had that option, and that's when I wrote The Graveyard Shift. So, and the thinking was
Okay.
that I really just wanted to write something that was like my personality and my voice, so that like when I snuck read it and they could still hear me like in their head. So, and then people just happened to like that. So it kind of took on a life of its own, and here I am. So book 4, which technically is number 6 in the series because there's extra stories, and then 2
Mhm.
side stories is coming out like in a couple of weeks. So taking on a life of its own. So now I don't have to go back to pretending to be a serious person in a suit, which is
That's
exhausting.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the long story, but
Yeah.
I
No,
wasn't one
that's
of those like, oh, and I'm a kid and I wrote these books when I was in the 4th grade and blah blah blah. I'm just like, well, I was a journalist and then I was like, this sucks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, your writing is like I was thinking about like because of you having you on, I was thinking about what we're going to talk about. And one of the things I really enjoy about your writing is just how many jokes you kind of like squeeze in within like I don't like it's I find it pretty like if you read something like Terry Pratchett or something like that, like it's funny and there's like humor and like it's coming, but like I just one of the things I notice is that yours is like, like it's boom, 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 joke, joke, joke after one after another, and
I mean,
I
unless you
kind
don't
of
think
like.
that kind of thing is funny, like I mean,
No,
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 humor, you
yeah.
know how hard it is to write humor. It's so personal and everybody has their own idea of what's funny. And then like so much of it is cultural. Like humor doesn't really translate as well, in other
Well, I
countries.
mean,
So,
yeah,
it's eye of the beholder. Like I wanted to reach people like me. So I was like, I just wrote the stuff that I thought was funny. I'm like,
yeah.
okay. I'm like in my office typing and I'm laughing. And I mean, I could be crazy. I could just be like this insane person who's just laughing at these terrible jokes,
Yeah,
which is
I know
okay. I just
it's
found the
so.
people that like those terrible jokes. So I'm good. Apparently you can make a career out of that.
Yeah, it's
And
really
I do
funny
get
that. Yeah,
complaints,
yeah.
like too much potty humor.
Oh, geez, I get that all the time.
I'm
I
like,
like.
yeah. Too much potty humor. The title is Critters from the Poo Lagoon. There were going to be poop jokes. I mean, I try to warn people. I try not
Yeah,
to surprise them.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's super interesting to see that because like I get that kind of stuff too. Like where people like there's like people would be like, oh, I loved all so much of it, but like there was like cursing tacked on or like it was like this kind of thing that was kind of like well, my favorite is when people tell me it's almost like faked or something like that, like that this is like it seems like it's like a put on, and I'm like, no, this is the way I am. This is an expression. It's funny to kind of get that kind of feedback when you know what went into the process, and I'm assuming that's gonna.
The faking part is us trying to have real jobs, pretending to be respectable. That's the faking part. Trust
Yeah,
me, I've
yeah,
done it.
fair, fair. And you said just then that it's hard to for the humor to translate. Yours is like very much like Americana, like like that the it's like the Kwik-E-Mart, like is like that's what I get the vibe of the Demon Mart.
Oh
It's and
yeah.
it's like
Yeah, I mean, I worked graveyard shift at a convenience store in Portland, Oregon, and the store in the books is the store in my head looks exactly like the one where I used to work. So I know what's in every aisle because I remember like I try to make it real because in my brain it is real because I worked those graveyard shift, which, as a young female alone was a great idea. Now that I'm thinking
yeah, I
about it.
bet.
Happened to me. Not too
That's
bad. I
good.
was robbed at gunpoint one time, but he apologized, which is a weird thing about me that nobody knows is that everybody who's pulled a gun on me has apologized after. And it's been more than one.
Oh,
So,
oh
you
my
know,
god.
yeah, not many people can say that, I guess. Silver linings.
Well, that's another difference between Canada and the US. I think like the only
Yeah,
time you
nobody has
hear
guns
that kind
there.
of thing.
Woohoo!
And, well, they do, but it's everyone's shooting moose with them generally. But
Oh,
that's
yes.
not true. There's
I
shootings and
don't, yeah.
stuff. But
I don't think that people who
yeah,
haven't seen a moose in person really understand how big a moose is, you know?
hmm
Like
yeah, and
they
they're
can
like
F you up.
they
They're just
yeah
spush you like a bug.
yeah. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, they are our highways around here are rotten with them. Like they like the way their fur is, like it doesn't reflect light very well. So it's kind of like you're driving along on the highway and this thing
So they're
just
like
darts out and
horny ninjas,
they
like
kill a lot of
stealth, like
people and cause a lot of exactly.
well, yeah, my
Yeah.
dad was Canadian, and for fun, when we were kids, like we would take these camping trips, like probably like 500 or 600 miles north of where I am in Ohio, and I mean up in Canada, like way up,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
no toilets, no electricity to this place called Lake Horrorwood, which we called Lake Horrorwood because it's an absolute nightmare when I was a kid. It was like, oh, what a great vacation at this like campground with no electricity and pit toilets, and it was lousy with moose just everywhere, like just in your stuff, looking through your windows, like I'm gonna stomp you when you come out. And then the lake, it was just full of leeches, so you couldn't even like swim in there.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
"Thanks for this wonderful
Um,
vacation, Dad." Mhm.
reminds me of the
Now it's a luxury
when I was
resort, which cracks me up. I'm like, "Oh, the luxury
yeah
resort full of leeches and moose." Hopefully, they actually have real
the
toilets now, but we'll see.
I
That was my
dare
childhood. I
say
don't
they're
know about
probably
you.
catered. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
now
was
it's a
in
luxury
Ontario a
resort.
fair bit. Yeah,
It
well, that's
wasn't a
it. Like
luxury
people like
resort in
probably
1984. Yeah, no.
rich celebrities coming in to rough it and like pay for the privilege.
It's medicinal leeches in the lake. It's
Yeah.
like spa treatment now. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
um,
Boy, we're off
that's
track.
funny.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, no, that's good. That's good. That's good. I mean, that was
Yeah.
kind of. I grew up going out to my grandparents who lived in Ontario, but that story about the leeches, I remember that. Like the salt, there would be a salt box um, next to the cabin door, and you just go in there, and then leeches are on. Just do. Put the salt on.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun
Eek.
times.
Eek. Well, yeah. I
Well,
guess
I mean,
rolling back to
speaking
like
of,
convenience stores. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna
I was
say. I
gonna
mean,
say
talk about the
I've had so
leeches,
many
like the
bad, crazy jobs in my life that I'm eventually gonna turn them all into series.
that sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. Although this series is so like, I mean, one of the things I was wondering about is like Lloyd, right? Like Lloyd is like the every nerd, like just like he's such like, I can't like he's like every neurosis that you can possibly think of, like jammed into this guy who's like the protagonist. He's like the kid living under his parents' roof, and he's kind of like, he's fat, and he's talking about how fat he is, and like, well, like can barely like getting like walk down the street without like wheezing, and he's just like this he's just like where did he come from? He's good, but it's just I'm
Well, there are a
curious.
lot of Lloyds out there. And I mean that in the best possible way, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to reveal all my secrets, but I wanted him
Yeah,
to
yeah, no,
be
fair enough.
an unlikely, flawed protagonist that people who, you know, people could see themselves in, you know? And he's modeled after an
100%.
amalgamation of men that I have known in my life.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah,
my
just kind of
teenage
dialed
years
up to
definitely had a
11.
bit of Lloyd.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
actually, it kind of warms my heart, but I've gotten more emails than I expected, particularly about the audiobook editions from parents, like dads who listen to the books with their sons, and some of them are autistic or, have some other things happening, and they really relate to Lloyd and they like Lloyd because he is the unlikely hero. He's not, he's flawed in a way I think that's relatable. And yeah,
Yeah.
like some people complain I lay it on a little thick, but I was like, okay, then this might just not be the book for you. Like if you want a guy who figures it all out in one book, like that's not how it's going to work because he's got an arc that he's going through of learning to be an adult that he is going to, you know, have to fix all of those flaws through
Yeah.
multiple books and multiple stories because people don't want to change. People don't want to move out of their mom's house, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too
100%.
cush, it's too
Yeah.
good, you know?
Yeah. Well,
So
that's kind of like, I like that about it. Cause like he's not moving because I'm through the first two books and he's like kind of like he gets there's like an arc and I don't want to spoil, but there's an arc like in the first book where he kind of like gets a little bit better, and then the second
hey
book he
man,
gets
he
a
ends
little
up
bit
with a
better.
job in the first
Yeah.
book. He goes
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
unemployed to employed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's a big leap. And in my mind, I got
Yeah.
complaints about like, when is he going to change? I was like, dude has a job. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's not nothing.
Yeah. And like it's one of the, I like I've really appreciated Dee Dee as well. Like she was like this, a character that like seems to love Lloyd, and it's not like it's kind of like in spite of him, not maybe in spite of himself, but like she loves him for who he is, and it's kind of like it's clear that she does, and he's kind of like you got his internal monologue where he thinks he's a complete like, which I can relate to a little bit.
Well, you know how it is. Nobody can see how other people see them. And we are
Yeah,
also wrapped up in our own brains that we don't always see our potential. So,
yeah,
Dee Dee
hundred
sees his
percent.
potential. I
Yeah,
mean, he's
yeah,
come through for her
yeah.
in the best ways that he knows how.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I love that like thing where it's kind of like it's done in comedy a lot, like where they like people trip into like success, and it's like
mhm.
luck is kind of plays a big role, and it's very, uh, it's a very fun way of doing narrative, I think.
Yeah, I won't pretend to be an expert like on craft of fiction writing. I feel like you just have to go with your gut and then just try to form it into something that makes sense. And
Oh,
I'm
100%.
still learning. Like people think that, oh, tell us your secrets. I was like, I don't have a secret. Secret is that I write messy, crappy first drafts and then I try to make it into a story that makes sense, that hits the notes, and I'm still learning like actively. Like
Yeah.
like I still actively seek out new like, craft of writing workshops and books, and I'm always trying to
Mhm.
get better. So hopefully over time people will see that the books are getting better. I hope
Yeah.
that
Well, I
they'll be
mean,
like, hang it up.
I don't think I don't think that's
She's
gonna
riding this
happen
dead
anytime
horse.
soon.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's like an interesting thing. Like the, I think it had like personally like one of the things I read when I was like starting out was on writing by Stephen King,
Mm.
and he was like, just keep at it, and like I think he said some of the things that stuck with me is like the lessons you're going to retain the best are the ones that happen with the door closed. And so like I kind of like took that to heart maybe a little bit too much, because I just like kind of like did that like for years. I just was like down in my basement like before work, like just working on things, and
Yay,
like it'd be like
basements.
yeah, yeah, exactly, right. It was just like shoveling crap over and over and over and over and over
Oh
and
my
over. And then
gosh.
suddenly
Yeah.
my daughter was born, and it was like something inspired me. I was like, oh, I think I'm ready to actually do this now.
Yep. It was mortality. Like,
Yeah.
hello, you made a human that's younger and has more potential than you. So you better get on it, old guy. That's what that does. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough.
Although you don't look like an old guy. I mean,
Yeah, well,
we're still like,
yeah.
We're
not
still
not
juicy and young enough.
yeah, yeah,
Youngish.
yeah.
On the old
Well,
side of young and the young part of old, you know.
yeah. Approaching the I'm approaching the 40, which was kind of
Oh,
like a
gee.
yeah. It's
You
just,
poor
oh
thing.
God, I was thinking, talking to my therapist about like having like thoughts about death last week, and she was like, "You got a lot of time. You
I've
don't
had a
need to
lot of
be
thoughts
worried."
about death.
Yeah,
Trust me.
fair. Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
have faced that dark chasm, and let me just say, like, have some fucking fun. Oops, not supposed to say the F bomb.
No,
Can't be on
you can
Apple
swear.
Podcast
Yeah.
now. You got to bleep that out. No, yeah, have some fun. I mean, prepare for tomorrow, but enjoy your life now. Like, you know,
Yeah. It's good advice. It's really good advice.
yeah, because you're not guaranteed. Nobody's guaranteed time. You know.
Yeah, 100%. Um, I just so you know the what's the funniest book you've ever read? I'm kind of
Mm.
curious about that because wondering if what your influences might be. Because you mentioned like I think in your like you're talking about on your website like Christopher Moore and a
Oh
couple
yeah,
other
yeah,
authors. Yeah.
yeah. I definitely. One of my favorite Christopher Moore books is actually his Christmas one, The Stupidest Angel.
Oh yeah, I
Like I really
haven't
love
read
the
that
way
one
he
yet.
handled that with like the corpses in the graveyard. Like they're having this whole conversation. I'm like, yeah, I really like that one a
Okay.
lot. So I like Christopher Moore and A. Lee Martinez, and I like um is it Tim Robbins or Tom Robbins? Like Jitterbug
Tom
Perfume and all that.
Robbins. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been that long. Anyway, so that kind of stuff. But I think I draw most of my inspiration, which people are going to hate me for this, but from movies, like
Yeah.
really. So
Yeah.
like comedy, TV, and movies. I mean, there's a lot of that like reflected in my sense of humor. So
100%. Yeah, I kind of the books I found that was one of the things about Moore. Christopher Moore wrote that book Fool. Did you read that? Did you ever?
yeah, I think I have a
Yeah,
copy of it somewhere.
yeah. Well, that one was kind of like gave me license to just be super dirty, which
hmm
like like as I was growing up, I was watch like that raunchy comedy and all that kind of stuff, and it was like that book was kind of like remember I was on the plane with my ex-wife going down to Mexico. Anyway, she was like getting mad at me because I was like laughing and like making a big scene. Like as I was reading the book, I couldn't believe that this was something that was permitted. But I mean, like most, like there's like constant references to movies and my stuff too. So I get it. I get it. You're the
Well, yeah,
sorry.
like, well, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Like I wrote a trilogy of books that's something else, but I wrote it like to learn how to write books. And I also was like, oh, traditional publishing. So I need to like write what I think is going to sell, which was like YA, paranormal, whatever, which is totally not my vibe.
Yeah,
So of course it was a flop, which is fine, but that was me learning to write books. So that's fine.
yeah,
And then, when I got the cancer diagnosis and I was like, if I have 6 months to write a book, like what best reflects me and my interest in who I am as a person. And I was just staring at me in the face. I was like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. Like look at my movie case. It's like Evil Dead 2 and Return of the Living Dead and like
oh
What We
yeah,
Do in the Shadows and Shaun of the Dead. It's like all these horror comedies.
yeah,
I mean, I was like, how stupid am I that I wasted all that time writing something else instead of writing what was really like in my heart. Like it wasn't hard for me to pick a genre because I was like, oh, I'm so stupid. Like, I mean, for years and years, every October I went to this 24-hour horror movie festival where you would pack your sleeping bags and you'd sit in the theater and they would have like trailers and guests and you'd watch all these terrible movies. I'm like, I've been doing that for like 20 some years and it didn't even occur to me to write horror comedy. Even though that's all the media I consume is like funny, scary movies. So I was like, oh,
yeah.
yeah. Sometimes
That's
we're dumb and we get in our own way, basically, which is what happened there. So I should have just listened to myself. Yeah.
well, I tell like the first books that I published, I was like, um, they were like extremely well. It was like kind of like I don't know, like more like I was reading like a lot of Paulo Coelho and like Herman Hesse and all this like really like spiritual stuff, and like I was having like these like super deep experience. Well, part of it was I went to fucking Peru and when I was extremely depressed and drank ayahuasca and had like my mind blown into uh,
Oh,
another
that sounds
dimension, but
amazing. You're in a basement in
but
Ohio. Woo! Party. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that kind of like the first book, like that was like kind of serious, and people like love, like, the weird thing about it is like published all this stuff and love it. And like at the time, obviously, it was about it because like I was like writing it,
Mhm.
but like once I started doing this comedy stuff, and I was just got like I kind of been like this is more my speed, like way more like what I'm like happy to do, and anyways, it's funny that you kind of like you start off with stuff and you're kind of like,
Well, I think it's easier because it's like for that last series, I spent just so much time like just trying to like almost like being the journalist again in the suit, pretending to be serious. It's like, oh, I got to polish my prose so there's no humor and it's can be taken seriously. It's just like I was like, why am I doing this? Like, if I can't be myself, like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
some people write those genres and they love it and good for them, but that's just not me. So,
yeah, 100%.
like, if you're
I
going to
like,
put your heart and soul into this, which it is a lot of work, people think, oh, people who don't write, who talk to you about writing, oh my God, it's the worst. But anyway, they don't know that this is actually hard work.
yeah,
If you're going to
well,
put the time in, you should at least have something you can be proud of that you enjoyed doing, It's
yeah,
a good
that's a good
reflection
point.
of you.
That's a really good point. I mean, I'm up 4:30 in the morning most days just to get
Oh,
my
you morning
stuff
people.
done. well, it's
My
like I
writing
got,
partner, Martin, I'm looking at you, Martin.
yeah.
He's up at 4 a.m. every day writing
Oh yeah.
1,500 words or more. He wrote 1,000,000 words last year. He wrote every day. He woke up at 4 a.m. and wrote every day. The
Oh,
man, yeah,
that's
but
a
he goes
that's a
to bed
lot.
at 8 o'clock. Like he stops DMing at like 8 p.m. because he's like out like a light because he's an early worm. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm up. I'm nine
he's a
thirty
morning
is usually
person.
where I am. 9:30 is like my thing, and I'm like, oh man, I'm fucking old now. Like if I drink like my whole weekend shot, and if I like I go to bed 9:30, 10 o'clock, reverse vampire style.
Oh my God. I'm like a creature of the night. Like I may like want to be a responsible adult and like go to bed early and wake up refreshed with the dawn, but it is not happening because as soon as like 10 o'clock comes, like I'm just like boop, like I'm on, like it's my time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's just not happening. Night person.
yeah.
So
Like I'm looking at you got like you might be in the basement, but you got a really cool backdrop for this. Like there's a
oh,
bunch.
backdrop.
There's
This is all my
yeah,
weird crap of horror
it's
that like
great. It's great.
that people give me, like, I can point. That's like this is my Dawn of the Dead. It's autographed by the director of photography for that movie, who I met at one of those horror movie festivals. And then my
Okay,
friends buy me this weird stuff, the Goulsville Bride of Frankenstein
Goals.
that glows in the dark.
Okay, yeah.
And then I have a zombie terrarium right there with zombie themed plants that I'm going to grow. Maybe make a video
Okay.
about that. And then I bought this awesome Frankenstein
Yeah, that's
painting
awesome.
at an art thing. It was a cat art show of all cat
Cat,
art, and
cat
then I
art.
find the Frankenstein cat art show. And I was like, "Oh." They're like, "Seriously, this is like the cat art show." So, yeah.
Where did you find that? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
There's like an artist's like a building, like a warehouse that the city turned into like artist loft space, and they have special
Okay.
art
Yeah,
events
yeah,
and themed shows. It was
yeah.
like a cat thing for charity, but I was like, "I want the Frankenstein."
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Um, so the other thing on it, well, you got all this stuff about movies and stuff, but you put a lot of references to video games in, at least in uh, Monster Burger. Is
Mhm.
that a big thing with you too? Because I mean, Resident Evil, I love that
Um
growing up.
I love video games, but I love like Space Invaders. That's my favorite video game of all time. Like,
Okay.
like my favorite like memory of childhood is like we go to the Pizza Hut, which was like a big deal for us in the
Oh yeah,
80s because we had to
yeah.
drive to another town out of Sugar Grove that actually had a Pizza Hut, and they had those like cocktail table Pac-Mans, that you can sit down and play, and it's also a table with glass where you can put your drink. I felt like so
Okay.
fancy playing that cocktail
Mm.
table Pac-Man. My aspiration is to have one of those in my own basement, which one of these days, so that people can, because I do have a bar in my basement.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
because I was a bartender on Bourbon Street in New Orleans for many, many years, but that's another story. But hopefully I'll get that cocktail table in there and it could be like Pac-Man and cocktails. Living my
Nice.
best life.
Nice, nice,
But I
nice.
do have a lot of geeks in my life, so that's where a lot of the game stuff comes from.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
lots of
Fair enough.
geeks of various types.
Yeah,
Warhammer 40K, Kings of War geeks, video game geeks,
yeah,
lots of geeks.
yeah. I
I'm the only
know.
book geek, but
Well, it's a funny how it's like um, I'm doing maybe hopefully I'm on a wait list for it. It's sci-fi on the Rock. The Rock being Newfoundland, which is a just like a nickname for it or whatever. But there's it's one of these things where it's kind of like I'm hopefully getting a vendor table, but it's like all these different people into fantasy, people into like D&D, people into video games,
Mm-hmm.
people, and I just love those big like nerd conventions where everyone kind of comes together and
Oh, God bless the nerds, right? I mean, I don't know if you can tell or not, but I was not like, the prom queen, like in my high school. I was the
That's
little art
funny.
kid smoking under the bleachers with my
Yeah,
liquid eyeliner. But God bless the geeks.
yeah,
These are our people.
yeah, 100%. I was locked in a sweaty basement playing video games. Probably that was my
Mm-hmm.
around
Yep.
around then. Um, okay, you're going to Mars and you need to take 3 books. What would they be?
3 books. I already have my albums picked out if I were on a desert island, which would be Mars.
Yeah, I know that's like cheesy. Like I was like, it's not a desert island, it's
Am
Mars.
I allowed to have like omnibuses or do they have to be like books?
Whatever you want. 3 published works. How's that?
Well, I mean, I might be lame and be practical and take like a How to Grow Food on Mars. There's something about how to grow food on Mars because I like that. Actually, Barbara
Okay.
Kingsolver has a really excellent garden book, which it sounds lame, but I am like
Huge
a
gardener.
dedicated urban farmer also, not just a
Yeah, okay.
novelist. So yeah, she has a book called Animal Vegetable Miracle that I've reread many times that I would probably reread again and probably hopefully get some ideas on how to grow food in Mars.
Cool.
I have to
Okay,
think
that's
about
one.
it. And then, probably American Gods. I really like that.
Oh, I love that one.
And I don't mind rereading that. And then maybe a Sandman,
Yeah,
like a
nice
graphic
choice.
novel. Oh,
Mm.
no. Scratch that. I'm not going to take 2 Neils. I'm going to take 1. That last one I'm going to sub out for Allie Brosh. She has she does 2 like cartoons about mental illness that like are hilarious.
Okay, I've never heard
Um
of her.
yeah,
Holy
like her
gosh.
second one is called Solutions and Other Problems, but the first one, which the name is escaping me, is hilarious and cracks me up every time. And I'd probably take that with me. So,
Okay.
but albums, I mean, come on.
Okay, tell me the albums then. You want to tell me the albums?
I was like, I've had this conversation. Like right after Katrina, we came back to Ohio and we were at a party and we didn't know if the house was still standing or anything, but we met this other couple and they were like, oh my God, we were just talking. Like if we were on a desert island, which 3 albums we would take. I'm like, we literally were talking about that while we were evacuating hurricane. It was like kismet.
Yeah,
So I
fair
would
enough.
probably do
Synchronicity.
ACDC,
Mm.
ACDC's High Voltage, the Australian release. I think I'm
No.
getting that right. But yeah, like, yes.
Okay, that's one.
And then I would probably do ELO, like Out of the Blue. No. Yes, Out of the Blue.
Okay.
And my Halloween mix number 5, which is probably cheating, but I have back from the days when you could burn CDs,
Oh yeah.
which was awesome. I made this
Yeah.
like epic Halloween soundtrack for all of my yard displays and parties that I had. And I just like Halloween number 5 has all the vintage monster songs, the
Oh,
novelty
that's
monster
awesome.
songs from the 50s and 60s. Like people think it's just Monster Mash, but it's not. There's like hundreds of those kind of monster themed novelty songs that were people
Okay.
trying to be the next Monster Mash and make a hit. Like I
Oh,
was a
that's awesome.
teenage werewolf and like, just fantastic songs. And they're all just so like surf rock and like peppy and like cute. And then they have like cauldrons bubbling. So it's just, that would be an album
Oh,
of
that
sheer
sounds
joy.
great. Yeah.
Plus, Halloween on Mars, every day's Halloween, right?
Yeah.
What about you? What would you take?
Well, that's a good question. In terms of albums,
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably take Bob Marley Legend would be
Mm-hmm.
one.
So you can
Uh,
relax while you're
yeah.
dying slowly in the vacuum of space.
Yeah.
Like, at least I'm happy.
Yep. What's next? It's a very good question.
See, you put me on the spot.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay, well, they'd probably get something that's kind of modern. So, infected mushrooms converting vegetarians to. which is
That was very specific.
that's very specific. It's good. It's really good. My daughter likes it a lot and listens to it with me. So it's got a nice little emotional thing to it. I've been listening to so much fucking Disney music lately. It's just
Oh,
like
mm.
that's all I can
To
think
their
of right
credit,
now.
at least they put some thought into it. Like, they
Yeah.
hire reasonable, songwriters.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's I'm
It's not
usually
like
down.
Hanna-Barbera and like, Grape Ape like level songs like we had growing up in cartoons, they put some thought into it.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
100%.
sorry, you're under 40. Is the Hanna-Barbera Grape Ape too young of a reference for you?
I've encountered it
Oh.
in other stuff. My favorite
Mm,
thing was Hanna Barbera
that's a
was
nice
the
way of saying you're old.
no.
Don't talk to me about your after school
Well, it's just like
cartoons.
anytime I hear of Hanna Barbera now, all I can think of is like because I think Adult Swim like got all the
Oh my
stuff
god, the
and
Harvey Birdman attorney at
yeah.
law.
Yeah, and Space Ghost, Coast to
Hmm.
Coast, and
I think they
and,
literally bought the catalog to all of that,
yeah,
and that's why they were able
yeah.
to do that stuff.
Oh god, that stuff's so funny. Oh yeah, Nick, one more third one. Jeez, that's a really really good
You're
question.
like, not Disney. That's your
Not
answer.
Disney, not Disney.
So you have a little
Um,
girl. That means you're singing Frozen a lot.
yeah, that one's a
I
big
won't
one.
even say the name of the song because we all
Yeah.
know. We all
Well,
know
there's
it.
that one, but the set Frozen 2's got a pretty hot soundtrack that we listen to a fair bit.
Frozen
Um,
2.
oh yeah, Frozen 2. Like I know the words to all these songs. It's crazy. Um,
Yeah, and lyrics stick with you forever.
mm,
Like when I was a bartender in New Orleans at this karaoke bar, it's like basically the soundtrack was the same songs like every night. And then with whatever top 40 hit was the hit of the week, like mixed in so people could dance. And I was like, if I hear anything that played there on the radio or wherever, it's like, I still know all the words to that. It's been like 20 years. I'm like, how do I still know all the stupid words? It's like because songs just get in your brain and drill
yeah,
in. And there's
earworm.
no way to ever get rid of that crappy song,
Yeah.
ever. Even if it was the crappiest song on the planet, it's just in there forever. So, yeah,
Well,
the
there you go.
power of music, people.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was thinking that it popped into my head. Robot Hive Exodus by Clutch,
Oh,
which
Clutch. Yeah.
is yeah, pretty
Yeah.
good stuff from my.
Yeah.
I've been listening to it ton of it lately, but it was something
Yeah. See, I
when I was
tried
in
to
my
pick
head.
things that are like perennial favorites because it's like I
Yeah,
go through like, things where I'm in a mood.
yeah, yeah,
But then
100%.
it's like, what's your go to that
I
sticks
mean,
with you?
I think Legend, Bob Marley Legend, 100%. Like that would be one that would never change. But anyways, what was I going to say? So the Monster Burger, you wrote that, and you like had the big book sausage thing at the end, which I read and loved, and all that
Mm,
stuff. Where you talked about your first encounter with the zombie movie was Return of the Living Dead.
I love that movie.
Oh my god! I first time I ever saw it was post pandemic.
Oh, oh my
Friend of
God,
mine.
really?
Oh yeah, it was like
It
not
was one
post,
of
well,
those
sorry,
movies
post the
that was
beginning of
on
the
cable.
pandemic. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those movies that was on cable, like when I was a kid. And I have a horror mom. Like she's this mild mannered, adorable little retired Catholic school teacher with the little Midwest hair helmet. And she wears the little embroidered sweatshirts with the snowman on it. And she's got her like kitchen towels organized by holiday and she's just not who you would look at and think that woman loves horror movies more than anybody. But that woman loves horror movies more than anybody. Like, I watch wildly inappropriate, like, to my age, like, horror movies because it was the '80s and it was just like, "Oh, whatever you're into, you just drag your kids along." So, you know, yeah, we watched horror movies all the time, and with the advent of cable television, it was like there was always something cool on.
Yeah.
So, Return of the Living Dead was one of those movies on cable, and I loved it because it was both funny and scary, and the effects were pretty good for low budget. But it also had a banging soundtrack. So,
Oh yeah,
I mean,
100%.
The Cramps and Tangerine Dream or whoever else is on there. I mean, it's a great soundtrack. So it was like, oh my God, like it hit so many buttons for me. So
Yeah,
yeah, I love that movie. Love
that
it.
movie, I
And
like I
Linnea
said,
Quigley, hello.
yeah. Yeah, I could imagine seeing that when I was like a teenager, and I would have been like, "Oh,"
Oh
but
my
like it
God.
was out
Yeah.
like whenever I'd see it, like in, like I remember like it would come on. one of our cable channels, but it wouldn't be the first one. It would have been like number 5 or like some like really
Oh,
crappy like one like, and they're gonna be like, this is a piece of
as long
junk.
as
Like
it's not
what?
number 2, that one's literally a number 2. It's the biggest
Yeah.
turd ever. Like, I don't even know. I
I
mean,
kind of
they were
enjoyed
trying to
it.
cash in, but I was like,
I
"What
kind
did
of
you do to
enjoyed it.
Tarman?" Like, I don't even
Yeah.
understand why they couldn't even just reuse the Tarman from the first one.
First one, yeah.
But anyway, we won't even talk about number 2. But the
Well, the
one with the
first
chick, who I think it's number 3
3.
or whatever,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it's like punk rock and 90s and it's the chick. I feel like they did
Yeah.
a good job with that one. Like,
Yeah, I like that
good
one.
storyline. They tried to do a Romeo and Juliet zombie retelling. You
Yeah.
know, I think
Yeah.
that one was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other
Well,
ones were like rave to the grave,
oh god.
like a
I
bunch
see,
of,
like, I can
they
see it,
tried to cash in on whatever
yeah.
was popular. Like, oh, ravers, we'll do one on ravers. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was like totally like I never. Anyways, I never saw like I never even knew the first one. Then my buddy of mine, like he was like, "You got to check this out, man. You're gonna like it." And
It's a
so
classic. Yeah.
I
It's held
the
up.
the opening scene, I honestly think is one of the best opening scenes in any movie ever. I just like died, like I couldn't, like I was dying laughing at that, like when the thing, because they just like that like what's his name? That character, he was hilarious, like the boss, or not the big boss,
Mhm.
but like his boss, like their interplay, because they brought him back for number 2 because they were like had a great chemistry, like the Tommy or whatever,
Mhm.
and oh man, he was so funny, but like just like thought he was like the bet, like just like full of bravado or whatever, going home for the pot roast with his his wife, like
Yeah, I think the X is really well done on so many levels, and the
uh,
subtle things like the coroner across the street and then
oh
the guy
yeah,
who owns the
Ernie.
warehouse are Bert and Ernie. I mean,
Ernie,
just
yeah,
little things.
that's right, yeah.
And
Oh
they played
god,
it like perfectly, like
yeah,
perfectly. Yeah, it's
yeah,
just it was a movie that knew what it was and really just maximized, they ran with
yeah,
it and it was good. So,
yeah, 100%. So, is that your favorite zombie movie, or do you have like another one that's kind of?
hmm,
I know it's hard to pick one,
um
but
I think that might be one of that's definitely top.
mm,
I mean, that's probably the one I've seen the most. And then a newer one that I really love would be Shaun of the Dead, which I love.
yeah, it's good.
But that's really just a homage to all the zombie
Yeah,
movies.
yeah,
I mean, there's so many bad zombie movies, but
oh yeah,
I watch them all. Like, I really don't discriminate.
yeah,
Like everywhere I've lived, if there was a video store or wherever, I would just go there and just rent whatever terrible horror movie they had, and that would be,
yeah,
like I don't, and then go to all the festivals and watch the terrible movies. Like I'm not picky. Like I like them all. There's something to be recommended out of every single one of them, even the turds.
yeah,
So it's
100%.
hard for me to pick favorites.
Yeah.
And
Did
then yeah, hard for favorites.
yeah, 100%. Well, I'm assuming you must watch Joe Bob. Do you ever watch Joe Bob Briggs? And
I do,
mm,
and I mean not religiously, I do. And then I went
yeah,
to he had like a live thing
mm,
here last fall where he was talking about like the hillbilly in cinema. So I went to that and that was fun. So
yeah,
got my
yeah.
picture and my
That's one of
autograph, you know. So it's fun. I mean,
yeah,
good for him spreading the good word,
yeah,
keeping people interested.
yeah. One of the things that sucks about living where I live is that to get off the island, you either got to get a boat or fly, and it's like a huge thing. And like getting into like anything like that, it all has to be either like online or it's not like there's no not being able to travel and go to those kinds of things. But yeah, no, that's one of the things I love about Joe Bob is that it's kind of like this is Joe Bob Briggs, The Last Drive-In, I think it is. He just like
Hmm.
watches like horror. He just plays, for anyone who's not familiar, he just plays horror movies, and it's like there's like a few interstitial scenes where he's like kind of like sitting there and talking about stuff, and he rants and raves about a bunch of stuff, and yeah, it's really fun, and it's like watching a movie with a friend or something, kind of like that kind of vibe to it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you're a horror fan, it's definitely worth the Shudder subscription. Um, mm, mm, mm. So yeah, so I didn't. I knew about you had your cancer diagnosis and you were yeah, I read your I think you wrote an essay about it, but I didn't know that the first book was written after that had happened. And that was one of the things that I kind of like. There's the first book is very like the it's like about a deal with the devil. Like there's like which is the Faust, like the demon you named. I think you named him Faust, and And
I do
it's
like,
kind of like
yes.
a yeah.
Yeah.
Um, which
I
is
went to Catholic
that's
school. You can kind of tell when you read those books. So I went through
yeah.
Catholic school from first grade through 12th grade, and then 2 Catholic colleges. So
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of deep Catholic medieval references. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. But I mean, like that story is like very redemptive, which like I suppose that like the time, like because you're and um, are you currently like in remission? Is that kind of your status? Is that
Um yes, fingers crossed. So
okay? So was that like that book? Did you finish that book while the treatment was ongoing? I'm just kind of
yes.
curious. Like, yeah, okay.
Um yeah.
Yeah.
So I was diagnosed stage 4 out of nowhere at Christmas 2017, which yay Christmas. Merry Christmas. You have
Oh
cancer.
my God.
And it was bad.
Hmm.
So, very sick. Like you wouldn't like wasted down to literally bones. And yeah, so it was just very bad. But there was a time I was about 6 months in and I was in the hospital because the treatment for cancer almost killed me. And it basically made my brain swell and gave me seizures. But anyway, it was awful. So that was
Hmm.
about 6 months after diagnosis, and several of the doctors in the hospital were like, "You need to go to hospice because this is bad, and the type you have is aggressive, which kidney cancer is already aggressive, but it just wasn't going well." So,
Hmm.
but then my oncologist was like, "Hey, there's this one thing. It's brand new. It was literally just approved for use, and I think you should try it." So I was like, "You know what?" I was like, "I got nothing to lose." He's like, "You got nothing to lose." So I tried it. It's an infusion. It's called immunotherapy. And basically, it immediately started killing all the cancer. So it was almost like a night and day turnaround. Like in a month, like I felt better. I was up walking around. I was, like I think within the first 6 months, like 50% of it was gone. So, which most people don't really know anything about kidney cancer, and I didn't until I
Hmm.
had it. But it's you have like a 5% survival rate for 5 years, and about 50 to 60% of people that have it, they die in the first year. So it wasn't looking good. But thanks to
Hmm.
this new thing, like by the time I made it to the end of the first year, like half my cancer was gone. So they're like, "Oh my God, like this never happens." Like success is having the tumor stay the same size, but to have it shrink is like basically a miracle. So it took a long time, but eventually that that treatment got it all. I mean, you can't see any of it on a scan right now, which is, how I had like an 8% chance of that happening. And I'm very thankful that I had that I was one of those 8%. I mean, they're still trying to figure out why, but um anyway, so that was 2 years ago. So it was literally February 2020 and it was like, "Oh my God, I'm in remission. I can party. I can go out and live my life again." And then 2 weeks later, "Oh no, the world shut down because it's a global pandemic." And I was like, "Are
Oh
you
my God.
serious?" Like I just clawed back from death and now I have to sit home on my beanbag because I can't go anywhere. Yeah.
No
So
way.
anyway, I mean that was probably the long story, but um
Yeah.
they make you stay on it for like 2 more years after. I mean, they're really
Hmm.
guessing.
Yeah.
So I actually stopped
Oh
taking
my.
it
Yeah.
like on March 11th. So we're just really hoping that it stays away. They're hoping that I'm cured, but they won't say
Oh
that because
man.
they're doctors, but they're hoping. So we'll see. I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. That was probably the long drawn out version, but that was the sanitized
Okay.
version.
Yeah. No. 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 Fair enough. And so, like, you were
So I may very
publishing.
well be a zombie because I have come back basically from the dead.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a
Yeah.
wild story. Um, the some yeah, like you were publishing while this was all happening, though, publishing books.
Yeah, I mean, not during the first 6 months because I was too sick to do anything, like, I couldn't even stand up or stay awake,
Hmm.
but, or eat food, which was very painful and awful, and I tried so hard to eat food, but,
Oh man.
so once that second drug kicked in and I started to feel better and it started to shrink, I was able to do more, so I was like, "Well, how am I gonna spend whatever time I have left? Because this could end at any second," and I was
Hmm.
like, "Well, I'm gonna write these things," and the fact that other people liked them and it gave them a laugh, like, that means a lot to me, you know?
Hmm.
Like I
Yeah.
get emails sometimes or, notes from people and they're like, "Oh my God, like I found this book when I was having a really bad time in my life and you helped me through it because you're helping me laugh." I'm like, "You guys have no idea how much that means to me because I understand the dark times, y'all."
Yeah.
Like like
Yeah.
that is a gift that they're giving me by telling me that. So, it's like if I
Like,
can make somebody laugh, like I've done my shit show out there. I
oh
don't know if
yeah.
y'all know. Life is hard and the world is
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy. So,
Yeah.
if you can bring somebody some joy, I mean, what better reason to do this? So,
Yeah, that's two people said that to me this year, and that was like, there's nothing that anybody, not no thing that I've encountered in my career has been as moving. That, like,
mhm.
people in like a dark place, and they're like, "You made me laugh when I was going through whatever,
Yeah.
treatment or whatever." Like, it's like, because, like, a person, from my personal experience, like, it's kind of like, I know what it comes from, a bit of darkness, usually humor does, or at least that's my experience. Like, they're pretty intricately linked, and
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely the gallows humor person.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
yeah, they know me at the hospital.
Yeah.
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 Always
Well,
quick with a
that's,
joke. So,
yeah,
yeah.
let's either laugh or cry, like they say.
Yeah.
It's
I'm like, even my mom, like some of the jokes I make, obviously this was all very hard on my mom, which breaks my
yeah.
heart. But
Yeah.
like I make jokes. Like when I was losing all this weight, because it was basically eating me alive, the cancer. I was like, "Oh, mom, but look how skinny I look. Like I'm at my goal weight." And she's like, "Will you stop making that joke? You're gonna die." And I was like, "Oh
Oh.
my god! Like if I can't make a joke about how great I look in this outfit, like what's the point?" Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay. Here's one for you. You're given a
Mm.
button that makes one piece of your work disappear as if it never been written. It can be anything you've written, doesn't have to be published or not. But what would that be and why?
What would I want to delete?
What would you want to delete from existence?
Nothing. I wouldn't want to
Okay.
delete anything. I mean, I know that sounds lame, but you know,
No.
I talked about people that don't that are outside of publishing and creativity and writing that don't know how it works and the way that the questions they ask you, where it's just like they act like it's some magical
Where do the ideas come from?
process, and they look at you like, and I'm like, it is not a magical process. Like I tell you, like how I got where I got, and that was writing a lot of stuff and including a lot of crap, you
Yeah.
know, for years and years and years. And
Yeah.
there was a writer in Chicago. I don't know if she's still around. Her name was Tina Jens, and I met her when I was 18 and I was in college, and she was running like, like a writer's night at some bar in Chicago. And at the time I was writing B movie reviews and just like trying to just write anything, and it was just tidbits and crap. And she was like, everything you do is a foundation for something else. Like you're laying bricks basically with everything that you write, and she was totally right. Like
Yeah.
so just writing a lot and writing all kinds of different things, even if it seems like crap, like it all builds slowly
Yeah.
over time into a career if you keep at it. So
Yeah.
so I don't
That's
think I'd
the
delete anything.
No, that's good. That's wise, and that's like, I was been thinking
Maybe
about
some
that.
mean tweets. But I
Yeah.
try not to. I try to keep my anger from showing up on social media. I try to make social media a happy place, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Fair enough.
I have
Too
rage
bad
though,
there's
so I
not.
generally do delete those before they go out where I'm like
Yeah. Yeah.
so I have
100%.
deleted. Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, not not doing that. I mean, I've done it too. I've written stuff that's kind of I wouldn't that was mean spirited, maybe, like, and not like, especially when I was younger, and like, definitely, you know angry with the
Well,
world,
now
angry young
you're
man,
near
angry.
40 and you know better. You just
Yeah.
don't write mean stuff.
Uh,
Don't write mean-spirited things.
yeah.
Be one of the
Yeah.
good guys. There's enough mean out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my
100%.
lecture. You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
trying real hard not to
but
slurp because of the mouth noise thing we talked about. So,
you're-
or do
I don't
this
have
when
any
I turn
more
a page.
water. Hopefully, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Yeah. Good God.
Yeah.
The what was I going to say? Just, but I mean, that's a really good point. I think that, like, I don't know, like, I've like, I'm in these different author groups and stuff, and like, people talk about, like, the um it's like it's not enough to just have talent. You gotta or just persevere. You gotta have talent and stuff like that. And but like I think that there's a degree of truth to that, but I also think that like the undertaking is like you gotta like I think Charles Bukowski said it best. In fact, told him it's like you gotta be ready to fucking go for through everything, like divorce, like get like shit on by the world, like all that stuff.
So you're going to do
you
the
know,
method acting school of
yeah,
writing where you're like, I have to live in the trenches in order to
yeah.
write real things. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it was more like the metaphor of just being
hmm
willing to like go for it, which is like, it's
Yeah, you have to
takes a lot
write,
of, yeah,
you have to finish stuff, and you
yeah,
have to actively seek to get better. Like, I
mhm,
mean, people at all levels are still working on their craft,
yeah,
Like I'm actively working on craft and, seeking out
yeah,
materials on that to write better stories. It's just a process.
yeah,
It's
100%.
not magic.
Yeah. Well, you learn new stuff from, editing every time, and learn new stuff from, just from
Oh yeah.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I edit my own books, which, they're not perfect, but I think, people were surprised when I say that. But I was like, look, like I don't recommend other people do that. But I worked as a magazine editor and
mhm,
worked for a daily newspaper and had all these jobs where I had that kind of experience where I was able to do those things. So it's you learn a lot as you go and use the bits that helped you
yeah.
to, in your author career. So, and then also try not to be blind to your weak spots. So,
Yeah. 100%. Um, that's a good point too. Is that it's all like it's good to believe in yourself, but it's also good to like I got a friend of mine, friend first, but he does my editing, and he's like the most critical dude on the planet, and I'm like,
so
yes,
he's not
please
just typo
do,
hunting.
please.
He's like, your work sucks and this part
Yeah,
is
yeah,
awful. Oh, some friend.
yeah.
Is he still your friend?
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, it's kind of there's definitely an element of not getting too personally invested in it, even though you're as personally invested in it as you can be.
Okay.
It's a very weird
Well, I
thing.
will admit that my mom reads my books before they come out or
Okay.
shortly after, but she makes me print out a paperback because, she's my
Yeah.
mom and she
Yeah.
hands it back and she's made her little, because she was a teacher. She's like, question mark,
Yeah.
word choice. And every damn time she argues with me about the Oxford comma because I do not use them because I come from journalism where there's no Oxford comma
hmm
in newspapers. And then she writes every damn one of them in that 80,000 word book, all those little commas marked. You need
Oh
to fix
yeah.
that. I was
Yeah.
like, we are going to fight about this forever.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
do. I'm in law, so
Go
it's kind of
mom.
like
God bless her.
that's the that's the thing. Oxford
I
commas
will never
are
Oxford
used.
comma.
I don't.
It's like,
It's
you
weird
sure
how you
about
get
that?
like stylistically how you get like entrenched in these things. Like every author's got their own style, like to some degree. I mean, you gotta keep it so that it doesn't look the worst, or at least that's my philosophy. Like you gotta like at least pick up Strunk and White's elements of style at one point in your life.
Yeah, and technically in book publishing, we're supposed to be using the Chicago Manual of Style, which I
Okay.
admit stumps me because, yeah, your English teachers in high school have lied to you. There is
Yeah.
no one right way.
Yeah.
There's more than one right way, depending on what you're writing. So, yeah,
Yeah.
like in newspapers, it's Associated Press style. You have an AP style book. For books,
Okay.
it's Chicago Manual of Style. And for academic, it's MLA. So, yeah, there is no one right way. English teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. They make
um.
it seem like the rules of grammar are this like on high, but they're not. I mean, some of them, but not
Oh yeah.
really. Nope.
Yeah. I had a teacher. Oh yeah. She put a few things into my head. I was in university, and like I became a pedant about a few things because of her. um. Okay, so I think we're getting close to time, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. But I got a couple, two more questions for you that are kind of a little bit more
Okay.
fluffy.
You're gonna stump me again.
No, this one's
He
more
did
is
not let me
broader.
prepare, people. Yeah.
Yeah,
He did not send me questions in advance, so I
yeah.
look like an idiot. Thanks. Thanks,
No,
Andrew. Thanks.
no, you
You're a
definitely
pal.
don't look like an idiot. Favorite horror movie, not just zombie movie.
Oh my
I
god,
know.
I can't pick just one. Evil Dead 2. That's my
Oh, that's
go-to.
a
That's my
great
happy
one.
place.
That's so good.
Ugh,
So
Bruce,
good.
if you're ever
Yeah.
single.
Uh, did you see the show? God, the show! I
Oh,
can't believe
Ash
they
versus Evil
canceled
Dead. I thought
it.
that
They
was
can't believe they canceled
so
it.
well done.
So
Like,
good,
I was
so
so
friggin'
worried,
good.
but it was
Yeah,
so good.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and when I
So,
found out, it was like they canceled it at that point too. It was like really, apparently they wanted one more season. I think it was
yeah,
just one
and then,
more.
I told you I had a horror mom. My mom and I watched Evil Dead 2 together on cable for the first time, and she loves that movie, but she never remembers what it called. She's like, "The one with the hand." That's what she called it. But she's like, "And that one I really like, the one with the hand." She
Yeah.
doesn't remember it, but we watched it together because she's my horror mom. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
got great memories of watching that with my buddy, one of my best friends. I remember kids, the three of
Mhm.
them watching. Like we found out about them. It was like we got to watch all of them, and it was
Yeah, I'm that
just
annoying guy. It's like I know it by heart. Like I could,
yeah.
I'm that guy that's like saying the lines. Like, I hold my hand.
Like right before it happens, like saying the lines right before.
I know. Like people are like, but my sister is like doing it with me. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
One of the drive-ins here played it during the pandemic, which was so nice to just be inside and every little chairs and had their boom boxes, because it's the drive-in doing the soundtrack, and everybody was saying, "Oh, my people!" Like we were just so happy to be outside, like out of place.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's funny. You was talking about doing it with your siblings. Like, we got this one. I don't like. Everybody hated it. It was critically panned, and it was like this movie.
those are the
Like,
best movies.
well, there was the Pest with John Leguizamo. I don't know if you ever saw it. It was like
I
this.
don't think I did.
It's so like it's terrible. It's like all these things that like the humor is off color. It's like over the top. It's like so insane. I remember showing it to like friends of ours and like, why are you guys fun? Like this is like unbelievable. We were like dying laughing at it. It was like kind of like the the in thing, but it's nice to get those kinds of
When you
experience.
say like bad reviews, like
Yeah,
honestly, every movie I love probably got two thumbs down or terrible reviews because critics don't reviews to genre movies, because they don't
yeah,
understand. If you're not a fan of the movie, you don't understand of that kind of genre, you don't understand what the fans are looking for in a movie.
yeah.
Like, I think Godzilla King of Monsters got terrible reviews, and I'm like, I went on opening weekend and it was a standing ovation because it was
Hmm.
everything that a Godzilla fan wanted, you know?
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
"We don't," you know, if you're a fancy critic, you're not gonna understand what we want. So, yeah,
yeah,
bad reviews, bring them.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Exactly, exactly. Okay, for a friend of yours, total horror virgin, has never even heard of Hellraiser. What movie do you recommend and why?
in Hellraiser?
No, I'm just saying, hasn't even heard of Hellraiser. Doesn't know anything about
Well, if
horror
they haven't
movies.
heard of Hellraiser, then we're watching freaking Hellraiser. I mean,
Uh,
that's canon, really.
that's so
Although,
good.
yeah, that's
Uh,
yeah. Mhm.
I know Mark. I just
Hellraiser
read
2, the
Mark's
best,
book.
though.
Oh
Yeah.
God,
Oh,
that one is
Hellraiser,
so
yeah.
cheesy.
I
Hellraiser. I
started
read
reading
this
it, and I
just
don't
read
think
this.
I understood what it was, and then I was like, "Oh my god, Hellraisin, I get it now!"
Oh God, it's so silly, but it's so ridiculous. But it was like the whole thing is just like scene by scene parody of the movies, and I like loved Clive Barker and like that kind
Mhm.
of his writing, like the Books of Blood is kind of like I think those are like the best short stories I've read.
Yeah, he's
Would I
actually on
consider
my
that.
to read pile again because I was like, "Oh, now that I'm, like, trying to learn short fiction," because, you're always learning, like, I just wrote
Yeah.
my first short stories ever, like, this year, so I'm still learning how to do that, and I was like, "Oh, I remembered he had some collection," so I was like, "He's on my list of,
Well,
people to check out," so
Books of Blood are unbelievably good. Like,
poor
and I
Clive,
like.
he had some bad movie adaptations, though, like
That's what happened. Like, and he was involved in them too. Like some of them, anyways. Like he had his name on he had his name on Hellraiser, which was great, and Hellraiser 2, and I think the third one, which was pretty decent. I couldn't watch the fourth one. Like the fourth one, I started, and I was like, I can't
usually
do
when they get to
this.
4, they're, like, just cashing in, and you're like, "Really?"
Yeah, yeah,
I'll watch the sequels anyway because 'cause I'm just that person, but it's like, "Oh god, don't make
yeah.
don't make it hurt," you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Don't
yeah,
make it hurt.
100%, 100%.
Don't make me roll my eyes. Like, at least try to, like, at least try with the
Yeah.
script, That's all I ask. I just ask for genuine effort in script
Oh
writing,
god, I saw
you
this
know?
one, what was it called? It was Leprechaun in Space or some shit
Oh,
like that. It was so
there was a
ridiculous.
whole in space and this in
Yeah.
space. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
whole 90s was just like a vacuum of horror, like crap in
yeah.
space. Like,
Jason 10 or Jason X or whatever.
oh,
Oh
yes, that's
god.
the one. You had to say its
Yeah.
name. You
Oh
just
god.
summoned it. Great. Good job.
Oh god, that's funny.
Yep.
Okay. Well, this has been a slice. Really fun. Thank you for coming on.
A
I
slice of
really
turd pie.
that
You're
was
never coming back again.
um so b-
Stinky.
before we well, it is holy flamingo poop, so you're
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot.
if people want to get a hold of you, where can they go
Oh, wait,
on
you
the
cut
webs?
out. What would you ask?
I said, if people want to get a hold of you on the internet, where can they find you?
DM Gay, which is DMGUAY.com. And then you can link to anywhere else. It's also
Okay.
Facebook and Twitter and, but that's the hub. So,
Yeah. And if you want to laugh, people, pick up. Well, the first one I read was Graveyard Shift, which I thoroughly recommend. Okay. Well, thank you again for doing this. And yeah, uh, we will talk again soon, I'm sure. I'd like
all
to do
right.
this
Thanks
again
for having
sometime.
me.
Yeah.
Me and
All right.
Bob. He's guilty.
Yeah.